And as we have our participants starting to come in, we've just opened up the doors to our Zoom webinar. We did have approximately 65 people registered for tonight's presentation. And while we are presenting on Zoom this evening, we will also be simultaneously broadcasting on Facebook Live. So as those doors have opened, we're seeing our participants streaming in right now. We'll give you a few minutes to settle in, and in just a minute we will begin tonight's webinar hosted by Historical Society of Santa Rosa and bringing you Santa Rosa Then and Now. This will begin in just a few moments. Thanks again for joining us. Our participants this evening can join us at any time during the presentation. So we'll leave those doors open. And again, we are simultaneously broadcasting on Facebook Live as well. My name is Leslie Graves, and I will be your Zoom host and MC this evening. Thanks to our administrators over on Facebook. If you have questions during our presentation this evening, the presentation itself will be about an hour long. If you're on Zoom, you can key in your questions in the chat bar, and then we will be moderating the questions with our presenter after the presentation. Just about 7 o'clock, we'll give about 20 to 30 minutes for questions at the end of the presentation. If you're on Facebook Live, you'll want to key in your questions to the comment area, and our administrator on Facebook will make sure that those questions come over into the Zoom chat bar so we can moderate them after 7 o'clock. At this time, I would like to introduce our presenter. I have the pleasure of introducing this evening a gentleman that is synonymous with history here in Santa Rosa and Sonoma County. He's currently the president of the Sonoma County Historical Society, and we are so pleased to have him with us this evening. So hold on to your seat, folks. You're going to see lots of great photos, and none other than Ray Johnson is going to share a little bit more information about himself. Thanks again for joining us this evening, and remember to put your questions into the chat bar or the comment section for us to moderate those questions with Ray after his presentation. All right, Ray, take it away.
Hello there. I want to thank the Historical Society of Santa Rosa and Leslie Graves, and I want to thank all of you for your support. I do want to recognize these are the ancestral lands of the Pomo and Miwok Native Americans. A long time ago, I came across a book called San Francisco Then and Now, and I love how you were able to see how something looked like a long time ago and what that same scene looked like today, and to be able to see exactly where that photo was taken. When I took over the Sonoma County Historical Society's 25-mile walk from Jeff Tobes, I wanted to bring more history, but talking with 100 people was difficult, especially for people that were not in the front of the walk. So I enlarged historic photos, wrote some information on the back, and let a walker hold that photo in the right place and the right direction to show and tell as people walked by. I called it Then and Right Now. John Schubert told me that I should do a Then and Now book, but with the advent of Facebook and then the Sonoma County history page, the choice was clear how to do Then and Now historic photos. I could also retake the photos and bring them up to date and repost them. So you can check out Ray's Then and Now on Sonoma County History Facebook page. So tonight it's all about Santa Rosa, and I've selected several photos I think you will enjoy. These photos are all in random order, different times, different locations, and some were not in Santa Rosa at the time they were taken, but they are now. So let's get started. The first slide you're going to see is of the second courthouse. The first courthouse was in the city of Sonoma, and there is no photos of that existing anymore. So this courthouse was built in about 1856, and it was really in this photo, the courthouse is actually the building on the right, and it was built originally just one story, and it was the first brick building built in Santa Rosa. And then later on, they added the second story, and then the jail in the middle, and then the Hall of Records on the left side. So anyway, in the next picture is what this area looks like today. So you're looking at the Exchange Bank on the corner of Mendocino and 4th Street, looking north, east. Okay, and so next we have Renault Oldsmobile dealership, and this is in 1963. This photo was taken, and it's on the, as you can see on the sign there, it says corner of A Street and 1st Street, the southeast corner. And you can notice if you look on the left side in the back above the trees, you can see the PG&E gas storage facility back there sticking up above the trees. It's no longer there, but that's where it was back in the day. Okay, next picture is what this looks like today. And the building is still there. It's warming trends, and it's been several businesses over the years. Okay. Next, I do have a couple of earthquake photos. This is the building in the background back there is the third courthouse, built in 1893, and the street going up towards the courthouse is Main Street, or today it's called Santa Rosa Avenue, and the street coming in on the left here is 2nd Street. It's really hard. There's nothing to see. Everything fell in the downtown area. Virtually everything fell in the earthquake. Okay, so the next slide is what it looks like today. So a little prettier, no courthouse, and actually, the only thing is the same as the streets. Okay, next, this is one of our a three-part then and now. This is the corner of Hinton and 4th Street, looking southeast. And Hinton is right on the courthouse would be on the right side. And this is in 1888. T.P. Baxter Hardware and K.J. Wiley Dentist. And so 1888. So the next slide shows the new building, because in the earthquake of 1906, that building fell down as long as everything else on the block. And so this is the Union Trust Savings Bank, which is still the same building that exists today. It just has different awnings, different views. And of course, the horse and the wagon is not there anymore. And the next photo shows the same building. This is 1945, and with the giant Grace Brothers beer sign. This was Gallenkamp Shoes, Sawyer's Jewelers, and that company is still around. The Topaz Room, and over on the side is the City Hall, and you can see the giant radio tower there on the right side. I'm not sure if that is for radio or if that was for actually two-way radio. And this is the Laws photo. Anyway, next slide shows what it looks like today. And so it's the same building, same as different awnings and stuff on it, and different colors. And right now it's the Beer Baron, but it's been several things in the past. Okay. Next, this is 3rd Street, And this is just south of the courthouse, across the street, I should say. And right around a little to the left, around the corner is Main Street or Santa Rosa Avenue. And the Campy restaurant and Campy lodging, they've been there. That place is there for many decades. And also there's Northwestern Electric Company there, and a few other things. All right, next slide, and this is what it looks like today. So a complete change. All right, this is 1960s Sonoma Highway, which would also be 4th Street. Actually, at the next signal, it turns into 4th Street. But they must have just finished the landscaping because it looks so neat and the trees are so little. And in 1960 is probably when they'd probably just finished turning it into a 4-lane highway. But in the background back there is Farmers Lane. You just make out a gas station, and over to the right there should be another gas station, and behind the trees on the right is the Flamingo Hotel. And so anyway, so the trees are not quite so big as they are today. So now you can't see anything. Farmers Lane, you can just make out the Hillside Restaurant. All right, so this is a lot going on here on this view. This is 1952, and we're standing on 6th Street, looking east. The cross street in the front here is Washington at that time, and today it's the same street. But it's called Morgan. When the freeway came through in the 60s, they did some alterations on the streets, and so Washington ends up ending on 9th Street now, and Morgan, they just used to go straight through and end onto I think it ended on 9th Street also, but they've just turned it into kind of a frontage road, and it goes all the way down to 3rd Street, which is where Washington ended at that time also. Anyway, so in the background, in the back, the big building in the back, yeah, right there, that's the backside of the California Theater, which is on B Street. And then there's Allied Moving and Storage right there. And on the right side, through the trees, you can't really see it, is the fire station. So interesting. I love the old cars and stuff. So the next view, well, you can see what it looks like today. So as the freeway's looming overhead, there's some big changes there. And I just recently retook this picture because some of those old houses that were on the block where the Catholic Charities building is now, they were still there a couple of years ago when I took that photo, and now they're not. So I had to take another one. But of course, the plaza is there on the right and also in the background. All right, let's move on. Now, this is also 6th Street. This is looking the other direction, and we're backed up. So this is still Washington here in the front, and it's taken on the same date. So where the last photographer was standing in the background, looking this direction, he's now over here looking the other way. And this is Lloyd Joseph Byrne took these photos. Now, behind that barricade right there on the other side is US 101. In 1948, and it took a few years, Caltrans wanted to create a freeway and bypass Santa Rosa altogether, but the city leaders would have nothing of that, and they wanted to keep it in town. But they knew that they couldn't drive. It used to go around the courthouse, and there was too much traffic for that anymore. So they wanted to put in a freeway bypassing the city. the city father says, no, it's going to take away all of our business. So they put in an expressway instead. And there's 7 intersections on that highway from 1948 until the early 60s. And 6th Street here was not one of the intersections, so they just got closed off. And it kind of recently just got opened up again, if you want to look at the next slide. And here it is, 6th Street's open again. When they did they added the carpool lanes on the freeway a few years ago, they opened this up. And so there you go. Now this one is this is the Adams house. That's the people who own the house. And Dennis Earl Harris took this photo, and it's probably at the time, because this was in 1986, even though this was a black and white photo, it seems much older than that. Around that time in 86, they took down all the rest of the houses that were on Davis Street. Because they were going through some changes, and the lot behind it, Grace Brothers Brewery used to be right behind this. And so this is 2nd Street in the front, and Davis Street going on the left. And for quite a while, you could still see 2nd Street through the lot. Even when the Hyatt was built, you could still make it out. And there was a tree that was there that used to be on 2nd Street. But when the Hyatt did this addition, they took the rest of the stuff out, and the tree went away as well. So, like I said, this is the Hyatt Regency, which takes up the entire block. But that place is, well, it's a little bit in front. When they added that building, the Grace Brothers Brewery was a little bit back. All right, next. This is Santa Rosa Avenue in the front here, and just right over on the left in the corner back there is 1st Street. And so this is, and we're looking to the west, the Auto Mart, which was owned by Robert Lambert. He sold Studebakers. As you can see, the Studebakers in the front lot there. The place is full of them. He also sold Mercedes-Benz and the English Ford. And they had some oddball dealerships back in those days. But anyway, and this is Larry Smith and Company photo, and this is what it looks like today. It's the Roxy. All right. So next, this is the 1948 freeway that we were talking about earlier, as it's being built. And it took me quite a while to figure this photo out, where exactly this was located. But I was able to, in the background, there's a building back there with a pediment on it. And I recognized that as the old Sonoma Outfitters, which is now, I think it's Rain Song's shoes store. But when I saw that building back there, I realized that was Davis Street, and then 3rd Street was around the corner up there. So this building right here in the front is Club, and I don't know the names of the businesses that are on here. I was not able to figure that out or read anywhere. This is 4th Street right here in the front, where kind of all these trucks are parked over here on the street on the right. And then 3rd Street is the next one back. And then this is the view today. You can see the way they're building that road as it continues off into the distance. It starts curving when it goes over the creek. So that helps. Interesting looking at the construction equipment here and the way they built this kind of a track to run the paver on it. Anyway, so and this is what this looks like today with the giant freeway overhead. And you're looking at 4th Street there, and our brand new hotel on the right side there. All right, next, Traverso's used to be on A Street before they tore this whole block down for the mall, in which case then it was moved over to 3rd and B Street. So anyway, this is This right here in the front is A Street, just a little bit to the north of First Street. And we are looking northeast. So if you can look at the next photo, is what it looks like today. Lovely view. And we all know that used to be Sears, and I don't know what it is now, but okay. Next, J.E. Myers. They sold Lincoln, Zephyr, and Ford. And I would imagine they probably sold, well, this was in 1938. So Mercury, I think Mercury came out in 1938 or 39. So I think this is the only reason why they don't have Mercury on there. Is it's not around yet. And then around the corner is Red's, which must be a bar, I would imagine, or a saloon. This is on the corner of 5th and A Street, and we're looking south on the southwest corner. And I guess they're showing off a new car here, and those are the employees. And then so you can look at the what it looks like today. Still 5th and A Street, but kind of taken over by the mall. All right, so the next photo, Emery Saddlery and Hanson's Shoe Shop. And this is South A Street, just north of Sebastopol Road. And it was, this area was quite a bit busier when Sebastopol Road used to go through. That was California Highway 12 in the old days. When this picture was taken, well, 1964, it was bypassed by then, or it was being bypassed at that time. So anyway, and you look at the next photo, nice pretty buildings, and it's nice to see them in color like that, but they're still there. And kind of a south of A Street, kind of an art district today. Okay, so this is the fire department headquarters in 1936. And this is A Street here in the front, and around the corner on the right is 6th Street. So this is when we were showing those other pictures of 6th Street by Washington, we were looking kind of through the trees we would have been seeing in the back of this building. Gives you an idea of where it was. All right, and then the next slide shows what this looks like today. It's the Plaza Garage. All right, the next slide is Sweet's Business College on Ross Street. And Sweet was James S. Sweet, and he started this college in 1891, and he was mayor of Santa Rosa 1898. And the college existed. Well, this picture is supposedly taken sometime between 1900 and 1929. And so this is on Ross Street, like I said, it's between Mendocino and B Street. And looking north, well, it's kind of looking northwest. And today, or I should say currently, because I think this picture is a year or so old, so it might, hopefully it looks different. And okay, so this one, 1875 photo before the earthquake. This is, we're looking down Exchange, and we're on 4th Street is here on the right side. And so the first building is the Hall of Records. And further down the street is Santa Rosa Dry Goods, the Press Democrat building, the Savings Bank of Santa Rosa, and a few other. Further down toward the end of the block there is the IOOF building. And to way to the left, kind of way to the left is the courthouse. Oh no, actually in 1875, that was the plaza. The courthouse is actually right behind the photographer. Okay, so the next photo is in 1955. So same corner. The earthquake of 1906 erased everything on this block. And so there was Santa Rosa Savings Bank was built on this corner first after the earthquake, and then the American Trust was in there for a while. Then they tore it down and built this building in 1950. And this photograph's taken in 1955. The Santa Rosa Hotel is further down on the right side, and I don't have any other photos on this for this day, but in the future maybe we'll do some hopefully on that. The Empire Building on the left was built right after the earthquake, 1907-ish. And it's been several things. It was a Santa Rosa Savings Bank, the Bank of Italy, the Bank of America, and it was a school for a while, and now it is Hotel E. And you can see the drugs, there's the sign there on the far left, drugs, that's Hammond Drugstore. And I have a photo of that as well, but I don't think it's in this series today. Okay, next. Oh, well, this is today's view. The canteen, at least what's called the Cantina, is now the La Rose. The Empire Building is still there. Like I said, that's the Hotel E. Nice place. I haven't seen the rooms, but I have been in the lobby. All right. Next, this is the Athenaeum, and took me a while when I first was looking at this photo and reading about this building. I couldn't figure out how to pronounce it, so I had to look it up, and I had to figure out what the heck does Athenaeum mean. And if I remember correctly, it's Greek. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. Anyway, this building was built in 1884. This photograph was taken in 1890, and it's a 2,000 seat theater, so it's rather large. And they had a dance floor that they would assemble over the top of the lower seats, and very kind of an unusual construction. I remember reading something about this building. Also in this building is the post office. You can see the post office right there in the corner. The fire department was on the backside, so it had a lot of things going on. Beautiful building. Anyway, as we all know, that April 18th, 1906 was the end of that, and of course everything else around it, which was too bad. So, and the next photo is what it looks like today, and this building was built right after the earthquake. And this is 4th and D Street, in case you're wondering where this was located at. All right, so this is a little bit out of town, Santa Rosa Auto Camp and the service station. And this was in the 1930s. And the street here in the front is Mendocino Avenue. And way over to the right, you can't really see it, is Steel Lane. And interesting, back in the 30s and the 20s, they built little cabins in this, and you can see it here, very, very basic. And the first ones were barely just shacks in some cases, and they had a little awning on the other side in this case, and you park your car under there. And in fact, I think you might be able to see a car there in that one. And that was before they had motels and other things. And then before this, they even if you wanted to travel in the teens, a lot of times you had to you just camped. You really camped. And then they became a little more sophisticated and just got a little better. Anyway, so then you can see what it looks like today. Big service station, no camping. All right. So a lot going on in this view. This is 4th Street going across the middle here in the foreground, and this is looking north on B Street. And on the left is the Occidental Hotel, which was built after the earthquake. And then the next one down at 5th Street is the Roxy Theater. And then further down from there is the California Theater. And then way further down, way down there is the St. Rose School. You can just make out the little tower over there. Now on the right side is the White House, which was a very popular department store in years past, and it lasted for quite a few years as well. And then beyond that on 5th Street is the Greyhound bus depot. You really can't see it very well in this photo. And then way down there beyond that is the Church of One Tree, the First Baptist Church, but you can't see that at all. All right, so this was that picture was taken in 1942. And then this is what it looks like today. The plaza on the left, and the White House is still there, or I should say the building is still there on the right side. And you can still see the St. Rose steeple way down at the end of the street there. All right. This is circa 1905. And this is looking north on Beaver Street. And the street coming in on the left here is Johnson. And you see the big house there on the corner. But back in this time period, Johnson Street, which is today is 7th Street, but Johnson Street ended right here on Beaver Street. And then when they did some reconfiguring on some roads and stuff, they pushed 7th Street straight through, continued it through to E Street or King Street. And then on the other side, in the other direction, they bent it around so it would run into 7th Street, where Johnson Street used to end on Montecito or Mendocino, and you'll see that here in a slide coming up. And so this is what it looks like today. The big old house is gone, and now there's a church there. And the streets are paved. And you can see where 7th Street goes through now, where in the old days it didn't go through. All right. This is engine house number 5. And you can tell it's I don't know the year of this photo, but you can tell by the Art Deco style is probably built in the 30s. But beautiful building, and that's really all I have to say about it. This is what it looks like today. So they have just, when I took this photo anyways, they had just remodeled it and really made it look really nice and new. You see the concrete here in the front where the driveway is and stuff. That's the original concrete. The sidewalk's all new. Anyway, this is on Benton Street, looking north at the corner of 13th Street. 13th Street is on the, or North Street, I should say, is on the left, or on the right. Oh man, I'm gonna get everybody confused here. So, all right, so let's move on. And we all know who this is. Anyways, Mr. Burbank is in front of his Tupper Street house. And this is, of course, on Tupper Street. And his unusual bicycle. And this photo was taken around 1910. And we're looking at kind of northeast at the corner of Santa Rosa Avenue and Tupper Street. And we will see this house again in another picture coming up. But anyway, but now we can see what it looks like today. And so Tupper Street no longer goes through. It ends a little bit further back. Sonoma Avenue, you can see there in the foreground. Sonoma Avenue used to go more of a straight angle, and it came through further north, and it came into Santa Rosa Avenue further north. And I'll show you an aerial view in a minute. But when they brought Sonoma Avenue down here, it came into where Ellis Street came in. So what they did, instead of having Sonoma turn into Ellis, they just changed the name of Ellis to Sonoma. So it just goes right on through. Okay, so if we look at the next slide, we have the Luther Burbank School, and this is on South A Street. And on the right side is Ellis Street, which is now Sonoma Avenue. And this picture was taken about 1940. Okay, and we can see what it looks like today. Still Luther Burbank School, just a different building. Okay. This is Cece's, which was owned by Cecilia Payne. And I think she got her start in the Flamingo in around 1957. Fashion, of course, as you can see there. There's a lot of photos in the library of fashion photos. These were taken by Don Meacham. And so anyway, Cecilia opened up this location in Montgomery Village. This is the corner of McGowan and Hammond, the northwest corner. And so anyways, she must have been really totally in the fashion in those days, up to date. Anyway, and so an unusual thing, in 1960, when this photo was taken, this shopping center was really new. And you can see but you see all the oil stains on the driveways, on the parking spots from the leaky oil and the leaky cars. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. If you look at the next slide, there's no oil stains. Well, I should say those are probably the shadows of the old oil stains from years ago. And so, and I understand there is a business in here now. So this photo is about a year or so old, and I probably should have retaken it, but I did not. Anyway. All right, so the next photo, this is a colorized postcard from 1907. And it's on the corner of Humboldt and Cherry Street. The northeast corner. And of course, it's a snow scene, and it did snow in Santa Rosa. But I wanted to point out a couple of things on colorized postcards and some other postcards. Sometimes they added things, and it almost looks like some of the people in here were drawn in. But look at the street trees here. They're all palm trees. And there's several of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them just right there on the two corners. And I thought that was kind of unusual. Anyway, and a sleigh. They got a little sleigh over here. It's kind of an odd looking sleigh. There's no skids on it. It looks like it's a box almost being dragged by that horse. So I guess I just made that thing up pretty quick. All right, next slide is what it looks like today. Same house, no palm trees whatsoever. There's a bunny tree there. And so anyway, so we can move on. Now this postcard, Denise Hill turned me on to this one. She had just purchased this, and so she thought I could use this in my slides, and I think it's a wonderful photograph. There's just a lot going on here. So the bridge right here in the front is Sonoma Avenue, and like I said before, it used to go straight. If you were to drive straight down Sonoma Avenue today, it kind of curves a little bit to the south as it comes down and ends on where Ellis Street is. Where in the old days, it came straight across, which would have been right through the middle of City Hall, and ends right here on Santa Rosa Avenue. This is Main Street, Santa Rosa Avenue on the right side, where the other bridge is situated. Now, down below, you're looking at Santa Rosa Creek as it comes in and around the corner. Santa Rosa Creek kind of followed along as it comes from underneath the bridge. It comes from closer into Santa Rosa Avenue, then curves along, stays pretty close to First Street, and then if you look at this under this bridge further in the background, this is the confluence. This is where Matanzas Creek and Santa Rosa Creek comes together. So Matanzas Creek went along the south side a little bit here, and this kind of forms a peninsula, and there were several houses on it on both sides of Sonoma Avenue. And when they did redevelopment, all of that went away. And that was in the 60s. But Matanzas means in Spanish for slaughter or slaughtering place and so on and so forth. So this peninsula, way back in the Mexican period, they could herd cattle into it, and the cattle couldn't go anywhere. I mean, I guess they could go down through the creek if they wanted to, but they would slaughter cattle there, and so that's how the creek got its name. So anyway, continuing along, in the background is that house, the big house back there. That's Luther Burbank's home, the back side of it. And of course, that's not there anymore, but it gives you an idea of the location. And then to the left of that house with the steeple, kind of the steeple on there, that's the carriage house for the Luther Burbank Home and Gardens. That's still there today. That's the office in the back of the house. The house you can't see because it's behind this big house here. So that carriage house is still there. And some of these houses further on the left are probably still there also. You can't really see. So anyway, the bridge here on the right, the Santa Rosa Avenue Bridge, that was, I think, the second steel bridge that was built for the street. And so this photo is reportedly taken between 1904 and 1920. It looks like Santa Rosa Avenue, or Main Street, is not paved. And that was, in 1909, that was the state highway that went through town. Then they got, they started allocating money for paving, and that whole road got through the whole county, got paved in the teens, and I think they were finished paving it by around 1920, and then they started doing improvements right away, widening it and so on and so forth. And then around 1920, 21, 22, it kind of became the Redwood Highway, just a formation of the county's business groups wanted to name it the Redwood Highway. So that's when that began. And then it became US 101, 1928. So anyway, I guess I spent enough time on that. And this is the same view today. So I'm standing in the kind of the City Hall area. You see the creek, the bridge, I should say. You can't really see anything. You can't see Luther Burbank's home because of the trees are in the way right now. So City Hall is right here on the left. So, all right, I think I've talked enough about that one. Now I'm showing an aerial view. This is 1942. The street on the left is Santa Rosa Avenue. The street on the far right is E Street. The street across the middle on the bottom is Tupper Street. And the street across the middle is Sonoma Avenue. So when you see where Sonoma Avenue hits Santa Rosa Avenue, the bridge, there's that bridge right there. And then on Santa Rosa Avenue, you can see the other bridge, barely. Actually, you can only see the pavement. But you can see where Tupper Street went through. You can see where Luther Burbank's home would be right there on the corner. And anyways, and you can see all the homes and stuff that were on Sonoma Avenue right there that they had taken out for redevelopment. This whole area, this whole block area was, except for part of Tupper Street, was kind of erased for redevelopment. Okay. And then you can look at, this is the same view today. So I'm not going to go through the same spots. First Street does not go through anymore. It ends on D Street. D Street was put through, and you can see the bend on Sonoma Avenue, how it bends down and meets there, and you can see the end of Tupper Street. Okay, and City Hall. Kind of an unusual architecture when you look at it from the air, but you can't see it that way very often, huh? All right, next slide. This is half of a stereoscope card. And the picture was taken about 1875. A stereoscope is two photos that are next to each other. You stuck it on a little board and looked at it through glasses, and it kind of gave it a kind of a 3D look to it. Anyway, this building, Capital Christian College, was built in 1872 by the Disciples of Christ, and the Ursuline sisters bought it in 1880, and it's today is still part of St. Rose School. But this building was taken down. Actually, I'm not sure when they took it down, but we're standing on B Street here, and way to the right is 10th Street. And when you look at the now photo, you can't see anything. There's too many trees. St. Rose Church is on the left over here, and then in the background is a few buildings. And that church, or that school, sat basically on the parking lot that's there today off of 10th Street. Okay, as we move on, this is an elephant, and it's the Norris Brothers Big Trained Animal Show, circa 1905. And so circuses were big in those days, and they traveled from city to city, mostly, or a lot of times, on trains. And so in this particular case, this train came in on the Southern Pacific tracks, or the Cortinas and Santa Rosa Railway. The train station was on 13th and North Street, which is just to the right. We're on Benton in this photograph. And in fact, that fire station we were looking at earlier is just right behind us in this picture. Actually, I don't think it was built yet. Anyway, so the circus train would arrive, they would unload everything, and then they would go on a parade to try to attract people for their show. Pass out people already knew it was coming, but this was a little parade that they would show that we are here. And so they set up where the Santa Rosa Middle School is, which is just a couple of blocks to the south of here. So they went on a parade, and I don't know how far down the street they went and where they went. It was more direct just to go down North Street to get to that lot. And at that time, that lot was empty. It used to be the Pacific Methodist College. Pacific Methodist College. And that's how College Avenue got its name. And then they moved that building over off of toward the north end of town. And so that was an empty lot for a while before it became a school again. And so they had circuses and things there periodically. Okay, this, as you can move to the next slide, the house on the right is still there. It's the same one that was in the photo. You can't see it because of all the trees. The other house on the left side, of course, is gone now. Okay, so next, now we're looking down 3rd Street. This is Hinton coming here on the left. Santa Rosa Avenue on the right. This is circa 1966, and the building right there is the sheriff's office and jail, and then the courthouse would be right here on the left if you could see it. But anyway, this sheriff's office was built right after the earthquake, so some of you historians will remember the story of the lynching in 1920 of the Howard Street gang, of the shooting where they shot Sheriff Petre and others. Anyway, they were kept here in this jail in this sheriff's office, and when the lynch mob came to take them away. It was right there at that building, and they took them up to rural cemetery and hung them. All right. And also you can see Rosenberg's building hanging up there. Sorry. Rosenberg's steeple, what do you want to call it? They're sticking up out in the background on the left side. Yeah. Okay, and then today, yeah, it's not there anymore. But do notice though that the street lights, there's a street light on the corner. Yeah, right there. A street light. It's the same. Those are the same street lights that were there in the last photo. So something survived. Okay. This 1963 Don Meacham photo of Corix when they were on 4th Street next to the Exchange Bank, right across the street from where Exchange comes into 4th Street next to Mendocino. Anyway, when Exchange Bank wanted to expand their branch, Corix moved down further down 4th Street where it is today in the old Bank of America building. And so this is the view today of that same location. All right, so now we're doing a courthouse series here. This is the 3rd courthouse. And we're on the corner of Hinton and 4th Street, looking southwest. And this courthouse was built around 1893. And interesting thing when you talk about dates of when buildings were built, you know, there's kind of, I don't know, it could be three or four different dates. You know, the date the cornerstone was laid, the date the building was completed, and the date that the business opened up. So it could be 3 different years. So sometimes you have to take those dates with you know, it could be the date shown could be off by a year or two based on that. However, they took this building. This building came down April 18th, 1906 at 5 o'clock in the morning. It came down all at once. So that date is pretty clear. So the next slide is the next courthouse, which was built right after that. It opened up. I don't know when they did the cornerstone, and I don't know when it was actually open, but I believe it's like around 1908. And it lasted until the late 60s. It took them a while to tear it down. So I don't know when exactly the next courthouse was open, but it's the same one that they're using today. And of course, this is the view today. So now we have the plaza back, whereas before 1893, it was known as the Santa Rosa Plaza, and then it became known as Courthouse Square, and then it became Old Courthouse Square. But I think it should just be the plaza again. And so, whereas the last photo I don't think it had any trees in it. Now there's some like 80 trees in the plaza. So it's as time goes by, it's going to be you're not going to be able to see through it at all. So anyway, now we have, this is, as a photo says right here, Davis Street. We're looking southwest at the Santa Rosa Creek at the Davis Street Bridge. And, you know, in the background, there's Olive Street neighborhood, historic neighborhood back there. And obviously the creek is really full right now, and that's probably why they took this photo February 11th. Okay, so, and this, yeah, 1925. Okay, and then today, Davis Street Bridge, of course, is not there anymore. It's been, Davis Street is gone between 3rd Street and all the way down, pretty much. There's a little section of it down there by Corby Avenue that's left, but everything else was eliminated by the freeways. And so this is Santa Rosa Creek. You can't see Olive Street neighborhood because of all the trees. So Prince Memorial Greenway. Okay. Now, this is a 1939 photo of Degrassi Motordrome. And this was off of Russell Road by, I'm trying to think of there was nothing out there back then in 1930. This was opened in the 30s. They did motorcycle racing, little, I don't know what you call those little cars there, dirt track. But they did racing for quite a while until in the 40s when they put the freeway through, which wasn't a freeway, it was an expressway. It took out part of the track, so it ended up being closed. Interesting thing about this photo there is up above the fence right there is the Fountain Grove Round Barn. And so you kind of get an idea of where this was taken. And then above that, on the top of the hill, is Thomas Lake Harris's mansion and the grounds and farm ranch lands there. The winery is further over on the other side. So anyway, today, you know where this track is. This is looking at the same picture, about the same place as far as I can tell, because I have no real reference points here. This is in the Motel 6 parking lot, and the bridge going across here is Mendocino Avenue, and it's crossing over Cleveland, and then further down it's crossing over US 101. And you can't see the hillside at all, where the round barn was or the mansion was. You see the courthouse there. This is almost looking north from this point, but this track took up it took up all of Motel 6, a little bit of Bicentennial, and a little bit into Cleveland Avenue, and a little bit probably that little diner, which has changed hands many times over the years, took up that too. And you came onto it on Russell, and Russell used to go straight all the way through to Santa Rosa Avenue. All right, next, the Grand Hotel. In 1870, the railroad came through town, and so things really started changing. And so now Santa Rosa could support a big hotel like this, and this was built in 1873. And this is the corner of 3rd Street and Mendocino. So this is kind of where we're looking at the sheriff's office. Is kind of real close. We were standing on the other corner, but we're looking southeast at the corner over here. So the Grand Hotel was a very large hotel. Didn't take up the entire block, or not even really half of it. But you can see everybody posing, and the wagons. Those are the Ubers that brought the passengers from the train station. Or in other places, everybody's posing out front. And they also had a hardware store in here, Stanley, Neblett, and Juilliard. Now, you all know Juilliard. That's the person that donated the land for the park off of Santa Rosa Avenue. And so, as we know, in 1906, that building was completely flattened like the Athenaeum. Then, after that, the Grand Garage was built. So if you're wondering how the Grand Garage got its name, well, you know how or why. This photo was taken in 1922, and Grand Garage was servicing cars since 1912. So, and I don't know when it went away, but it became a parking lot for a while. And then today it is Bank of America. So Bank of America has moved around all over the place, but it's always been right in the downtown area. Okay. Giades. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that properly. It's the G word. The restaurant there. And so this is the southwest corner of Adams and 7th Street, and the west side, the Italian Quarter and restaurant. So anyway, and then later on, and I remember Michelle's was there at least in the 90s. I don't know when they started, who Michelle was, and exactly when they ended. But today, of course, it is Starks, and it's nice they've kept the building pretty much the way it was. So beautiful thing. All right, next. Okay.
Hi, Ray. Man, everyone is aching to ask you some questions that you have just presented so much information, and I'll let everybody know that Ray has to do this again and go through the next 80 of his slides that are right behind this slide. But we're right now at 7 p.m. and I know that there's so many questions. I was kind of monitoring the chat a little bit as Ray was presenting, and folks were asking quite a few questions, had quite a few comments and things like that. I want to remind people how this works. So we want to definitely thank Ray for all of his time and energy, not only researching all of this information, but gathering all of these historical photos, as well as taking many, and I think potentially all 100% of those current photos that Ray was sharing with all of us. We were going to moderate some of the questions that people have been keying into the chat this evening, as well as those questions that you might leave for us in the comment section of Facebook, because while we are doing this live on Zoom, we are also simultaneously live on Facebook. Just want to remind everybody that it was a lot of information, and the beauty of doing this on Zoom is that we will be posting the video. We have been recording all of this, and the video will be posted to the Historical Society of Santa Rosa's YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube and you just key in Historical Society of Santa Rosa, you can't miss it. And it has a wealth of information there with all of the past webinars as well. So going on to those questions, really easy question right here. But Ray, please share with us. You talked about an earthquake, and there's been a few earthquakes in Santa Rosa, but the most prominent one, I think, is the San Francisco quake. And please tell us the date of that one again, and then also tell us that second earthquake that happened that didn't tear down the courthouse, but it certainly made it to where it had to be torn down later. So if you can share that information with us, that'd be great.
Well, the first, or I should say, the major earthquake was April 18th, 1906, and it literally flattened all of downtown Santa Rosa. Now the second earthquake, or I should say second earthquake, it's the next big earthquake. It was 5.9. There's two. It was a pair of earthquakes. So those were in 1969. So the courthouse was already torn down. So that earthquake, what it did was it damaged a lot of buildings. And there was all of these. The entire downtown was rebuilt after 1906. So now all of a sudden, all of those buildings were now 1969. They're all 60 years old. So a lot of those buildings were reaching the end of their life anyways, and they were being patched together. And then this earthquake comes along and does a number on a lot of these structures, and enough in a lot of cases it was not nobody wanted to put, owners did not want to put the money into those old buildings. They said it's time, we gotta move on, it's just not worth it. So yeah, that was part of the reason, and the Santa Rosa Mall came about somewhat because of that. Now there's some politics and stuff like that involved, but I'm not even gonna get into that.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that.
right.
We do have some questions about that amazing building that unfortunately was destroyed during the 1906 quake, the Anatheum. And there's a question here from Brett that asked if maybe there's different pronunciations, and I bet there is, Brett, if you put that into Google and you ask it to pronounce that word in, with kind of a Greek background compared to maybe an American background. But he had another question around, or comment around that, was that it was a great concert hall of its day, and that he's saying that it once had paid John Philip Sousa. Do you know if anything about that? Do you know any of the artists that maybe?
I don't recall. In Gayla Barron's book, The 19th Century Town, describes quite a bit of stuff that was going on there, and there were some famous people that did go there. I don't really recall anybody in particular, but yeah, the pronunciation, when I first saw that word, I had no idea how to pronounce it, and so I did look it up, and I had to learn, using the Webster dictionary. So I'm pretty sure the Anthonyum is the correct pronunciation, but I could be wrong, and maybe you need to say it with an accent, because it's not an English word. So anyway.
Yeah. And your pictures, that those historical pictures are often very rich, not just of the buildings, but of the period where, like, what people were wearing, or the cars, like that you mentioned. There was one picture in particular that was in front of Luther Burbank's home, and he was with his bicycle, and you mentioned something about it being an unusual bicycle, and we had a question about how did that bicycle propel with no chain. Do you know a little bit about that?
Well, it had to be some kind of a gearing system, but I don't, looking at it in the picture is not extremely clear that I can't tell, but I had asked that question on Facebook, and somebody came up with a pretty, a technical explanation I still really didn't understand. I would love to see one of those bikes in person, to really understand how it worked.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, bikes played such a major role, not only in transportation, but also in some of the social justice, and for enfranchisement for women. So that could be a whole presentation in and of itself. And Luther Burbank definitely would make it into that slideshow once again with his bicycle. So maybe that'll be in our future at one point in time. So I want to go to some of the other questions here. That 1906 earthquake, that always is a hotbed of questions during a presentation like this, especially when showing the old buildings. When the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco, was that the reason why trains never ran through Santa Rosa for decades until SMART was built? Is that?
Well, the trains, there was the Petaluma and Santa Rosa Railway, which was an electric line that ran but to Petaluma to Forestville, and then they had a branch that went from Sebastopol to Santa Rosa, and they also ran on the streets in Santa Rosa. And I have a slide on that, but we didn't get there. But so there was public transportation train wise, and that railway ran from around 1905 or something like that until, well, it ran until the 60s. People remember the railroad tracks down the middle of in Sebastopol, and those tracks were taken up relatively recently. But the passenger service ended, I think, in 1941, or maybe a little earlier than that. So there was trains, and they had, of course, the main railroad that ran all the way up to Eureka. That ran continuously. The earthquake didn't really. There was damage, but they repaired that pretty quick, and that ran. It was running still there, but not all the way up to Eureka. But and then the Smart Train took it over. So now we're finally getting back. We're going back to the passenger service on the tracks here.
Yeah, and I can remember one of our past webinars actually that talked about the train service and bringing people up from the city, and it was a little bit different than today's kind of tourist attractions, but at the same time there was quite a bit of commerce, as well as groups coming up to enjoy, let's say, the Flamingo Hotel, and those kinds of things. So the trains did play a role in our history. Yet again, I think this webinar is unveiling some more topics for us in the future.
Definitely. That could
With
be
all of these questions.
yeah.
One of the questions here around the photos, and they are just amazing photos. This question asks a little bit about, what they might look like if there was color added to them. And you did show us that colorized postcard, but share with us a little bit about how you've gathered all of these photos, because you have a lot more. I know I saw 160 slides, folks. So we definitely can have part 2 of this presentation, but then Ray also has even more than that. Share with us how you do gather these.
Pardon me?
Share with us how you gather these vintage photos.
Well, I look for pictures. Now the Sonoma County Library website is a tremendous source. You have thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures, and a lot of them I had seen in books. I have a lot of history books, for the county and the city and so on, and so I would look at those photos, and then so I would make a copy, an 8.5 by 11 picture of it, of that photo, and then I would go out, find that location, and then take another picture. And sometimes I can't, there's no picture to take, because either the place has been taken up by something, or there's so many trees and stuff in the way that I'd be taken as a picture of a bunch of trees, or something like that. But I've also found pictures in restaurants. I was just the other day at the Exchange Bank in St. Francis, and they had a collage of old pictures, and so I was taking pictures of the pictures, so I can in the future do this. Now I have on Sonoma County History Facebook page, which is for the Sonoma County Historical Society, but I post, I call it Ray's Then and Now, and so I've been posting regularly, once a week or a couple times a week, then and now photos, and so it's a lot of fun, and so it's for the whole county. It's pictures I found from, like I said, books and the library, and a lot of times I'll link them to the library, because you can't unless you download the photo, save the photo and download it. You can blow it up that way and look at it carefully, but you can't really look at it bigger on Facebook. But you can click the link for the Sonoma County Library, and then from there you can, sometimes, depending upon how it's been cataloged, you can blow up that photo and look at more detail.
Yeah, and I definitely want to elevate what you just said around where you post some of these photos, which is on Sonoma County History Facebook page, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So look for Ray there right now. You can, while you're on your phone as well as your laptop or your desktop, go ahead and go to the Facebook page if you do frequent Facebook, and go to Sonoma County History, and then you'll be seeing a lot of these photos. And you can, Ray is so generous to answer questions and whatnot. So check him out there. And also remind you that this presentation, while brought to you by the Historical Society of Santa Rosa, and they bring you, every month a different presentation, whether it's a webinar online or in person, and you can find out more about them at historicalsocietysantarosa.org, as you can see on the screen right there. You can also join them to become a member. And Ray is the president of the Sonoma County Historical Society. So they are definitely in conjunction in that they work together often and share a lot of members. And so, and as we can see here, Ray is giving this presentation at Historical Society of Santa Rosa webinar, but it's just, such a wealth of information. And I'm going to shoot another question to you right here. We had a lot of Niles, I believe, if I've got his name pronounced right, or their name pronounced right, is looking to move to Santa Rosa. And there's a bit of information. Sounds like they know a lot about some of the war effort and the fact that there was some Confederate soldiers and leaders here in Santa Rosa, and was asking if there was any surviving Civil War era structures in Santa Rosa today. And it's great at these webinars. There's also historians in the audience, local historians, and they're talking about, of course, our rural cemetery. But bring that to you, Ray. Do you know of any surviving Civil War era structures in Santa Rosa?
Well, 1860s, there's, I don't know of any specifically from that particular era. As far as there's buildings that are, or off the top of my head, I can't come up. I'm sure there is some in Santa Rosa. Like I said, a lot of Santa Rosa came down. Before Santa Rosa, before the war, there are some older buildings that are still around than that. But yeah, as far as a building that was built during the war, that's still here. I cannot recall of any.
Yeah, and another great way to access some more information. Again, you had mentioned the historical library. It's mentioned that. Tell us a little bit more about that. For those folks that maybe aren't from this area, we also have Paula on from Garden Grove, California. She enjoyed your presentation, but talk about some of, that resource in particular, because I think every one of our webinar presenters have used that resource.
Yeah. The Sonoma County Library, they have a branch. It's called the History and Genealogy Library. And they run the digital, they call it digital archives. And you can, sometimes it's a little hard to get to it. If you go through Sonoma County Library, then you got to weave through there to find the History and Genealogy branch. And then to get to the archives, the digital archives, and you click on that, and then you can randomly look through the photos, but you can type in specific information and come up with different groups of photos. And sometimes it's a little hard to maneuver that website, or to type in, because there's pictures I can't find. I was looking for some of the pictures that I had posted, and I knew, especially the Freeway pictures, the old Freeway pictures, and I knew that they were there, but I could not find them again. So it depends upon how they're titled, how they were titled originally, and sometimes the years help, but if you don't know the exact years, so it's sometimes it's a little cumbersome. But if you keep plugging away at it, different things, different ways, you should eventually figure it out if you're looking for a particular photo. But you can do a lot of browsing and find a lot of neat stuff in there. That's for sure. And then they have a lot of other things. If you just want to look at photos, you just click on the images only, and you can just look at photos. But there's a lot of the Sonoma County Historical Society's historian, our quarterly magazine has been around since the 60s, and there's a huge amount of historical documentation there, and a lot of research that could be done through those magazines, and they're all there on that website. So you can type in particular words, and then the different historians that have that word in it will come up, and then then you got to click on it and look at it to see if that's what you're looking for. If you put in a real common word, you'll get everything. So sometimes you have to figure it out, what words work best.
Yeah, and about a year ago, we actually had a representative from that branch come and give a presentation about how to research your property here in Santa Rosa. So you can, again, look on YouTube, go ahead and key in Historical Society of Santa Rosa and check out all of the recorded webinars. And one of our board members here, Denise Hill, who you shared a postcard of hers that showed the Santa Rosa Creek, I believe. And she just put the link in the chat area. And I have to give a shout out to Denise, because she also, behind the scenes, is our Facebook administrator who provides any of the Facebook questions that people leave in the comments. She will key them in here on Zoom so that we can answer them right away. We haven't gotten any questions on Facebook, but the beauty of this is that you now have 2 places that this recording will play after tonight. You can go to the Historical Society of Santa Rosa's Facebook page and look up their videos, and you can see this video as well as the other webinars, and you can go to the YouTube page. So these are great methods of archiving this information as well. And it's so wonderful to be able to record this. Ray, I've got one more question coming at you right now. Let's see, actually Denise is also putting the photo collection link in the chat. So folks, go ahead and open up those and then bookmark them onto your laptop or your desktop if you're joining us. And I have no doubt Denise will also share those links on our Facebook page as well. So in the comment section of tonight's presentation. And what would, looking back over the slides that you shared with us tonight, Ray, what's one of the slides that stands out, either because you just want to dig into history a little bit more and find some more information about it, or it just kind of stands out because that was so unusual in your finds? Because I know you have so many that you look at.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and it's when you look at it on a large format, sometimes when you're look at a photo in the book or whatever, the resolution is not really good. Then when you see it on a big screen, it's like, oh wow, I didn't see that, and look at that, and look at that, and so you can really look at the photos. Now the one that that has a lot of detail was that postcard. The Santa Rosa Creek in the back of the Tupper home. There is so much detail in there, and there's several more. We didn't get to all of them, but a lot of those downtown photos have got a lot of businesses and stuff like that in them, and so there's a lot to pick out. And I expand on that when I post them. I try, if they're on a subject, I try to add in as much history as I can that I know that I can look up, and then provide that as well. So it's a little bit more than just doing these pictures. I can't do too much here, but or sometimes I have to look at the book because I can't remember everything. And I don't want to say, bad information. I don't want to, I try not to mislead anybody.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate all the information that you share and your diligence as far as not, trying to say more or embellish where that information may not be something that you've uncovered just yet. So I really appreciate that. Lots of folks in the chat are just thanking you so much for all of your work on this and for sharing all of these photos. Dario actually said that they transplanted here in 2010 and love learning more about Santa Rosa and Sonoma County, and certainly the Historical Society of Santa Rosa, as well as the Sonoma County Historical Society. Both allow for that and bring up a lot of information. Santa Rosa and Sonoma County are ever changing. We are experiencing transition on a continual basis, and it's great to be able to look at these past photos. There was a question earlier about the large population of Russian transports here in Santa Rosa, and if that was maybe due to the proximity to Fort Ross, north and on the coast of us.
Well, there's not, I don't think there's too many Russians. The Russians that came in between 1811 and 1841, they came, they stayed in their area, and then they left, and they packed up and they took everything with them. So as far as I know, there's probably Russian DNA floating around, especially with the Native Americans, the Kashaya tribe and stuff. I would imagine that there's Russian DNA still around. But as far as the Russians, a lot of the Russians came later during after the Bolshevik Revolution. They were called White Russians and stuff. San Francisco has a huge community there, and I'm sure quite a few of them came up here as well. Yeah.
And I also want to thank you, just big props to you, Ray, also for your land acknowledgement tonight with the Pomo and the Miwok indigenous tribes and peoples, and really appreciate that. As we talk about the history of buildings and the history of Santa Rosa, to really acknowledge and be aware of our true history, right?
Right.
Our history of the original people here on this land. So, we love the buildings and we love the landscape and we love those memories that are associated with it. But we also want to honor our indigenous population. Absolutely. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that tonight. We're wrapping it up here, folks. We so appreciate you and all of the questions that you had, and I know that you're probably going to have some more. So remember to access Ray on the History of Sonoma County Facebook page. So check out his photos, and now you can say, hey, Ray, I saw you on that webinar and I've been meaning to ask you this. So, and we'll look forward in the future to inviting Ray back again in person or on Zoom, and doing another presentation with some more of these photos. And it was such a great tribute also to the legendary Jeff Tobes. If you didn't catch that at the beginning, if you weren't with us at the beginning, and how Ray took over the Sonoma County Historical Society's 25-mile walk that Jeff Tobes did with so much of our population, but I remember that from having elementary school kids that would go on those walks with Jeff Tobes. And so, Ray, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your diligence in bringing this information forth and for carrying on that legacy of Jeff Tobes by all means. So folks, thank you for joining us. Remember that the Historical Society of Santa Rosa brings you these types of presentations monthly. Check out their website at historicalsocietysantarosa.org and find out all about their upcoming events. You can join as a member, and you can also make a donation. So that would be greatly appreciated. We enjoy having you here and on Zoom as well as on Facebook Live. Remember that this recording will be posted in the next 24 hours or so on YouTube, and you can access it there to check out those photos once again and ask Ray a question on History of Sonoma County Facebook page. So with that, thank you everybody for signing up. We're going to see you next time. Ray, thank you once again. And I want to wish everybody a great evening. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.